All right, greetings, friends. Reformed Stoic here. So, I'm going to tell you the story of the Reformed Stoic, how I became the Reformed Stoic, what my journey has encompassed so far, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Alrighty, so where do I begin? I guess it all starts with me attending UNLV in Las Vegas. My first semester there was fall 2017. But basically, my life ever since high school has been kind of a train wreck. I think that's a little bit of a negative way to put it, but there's this kind of like sequence of events that I always feel necessary to explain leading up to things. I always end up kind of telling my same life story over and over. So I'll give you a brief overview of events that led to that point at UNLV. Because, of all my faults and issues, I think it's safe to say at this point that I've led a very interesting life, if nothing else going for me. So I went to Berklee College of Music in fall 2009. So I went to Berklee for 2 years. Basically, I couldn't afford to continue for lack of more of an explanation. I was taking out student loans. I guess I could have taken out more student loans, yada yada, but I didn't. So 2 years at Berklee. Then I stayed in Boston for another 3 years, playing in metal bands, going on tour, living in a house with a bunch of fellow musicians, metal musicians. We all played in like multiple bands between us. We had other bands rehearsing there. Sometimes people would stop through and rehearse there. That was a really cool part of my life. I feel like that was probably like the most obviously positive part of my life. So that started in winter 2011, and then that ended near the beginning of 2014, or really, I moved out in the summer of 2014. So that's when I moved to Vegas. So I kind of decided, because I had been a rapper. I have a video how I became a rapper. I'd been rapping kind of like as this side project for a while, and I've said to try to like keep the momentum of my artsy fartsy music life going. When the metal band stuff didn't really work out and I moved to Vegas, I thought, I'm gonna really try to make it as a rapper. So that started kind of my like trying to make it as a rapper arc. Yada yada yada. Eventually I get scouted. I get scouted by these people connected to a group that I'm not going to name drop, that they give development deals. So basically, like, near the end of 2014, that happened. And then 2015 was writing the songs. And then all was said and done. And I go to LA, shoot the music video, record the 3 songs. And then, so that was in the beginning of 2016. And when I get back from LA after shooting the music video and recording the music, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And they're just leaving me with this music video. I mean, basically, they gave me what I paid for. Knowing what I know about sound quality, it was a little bit of a scam, kind of. But looking back, there's things I could have did, man. I had a cool music video. It showed that I was kind of talented, and I had a couple of songs. So probably what I should have did is shop the stuff around. Email a bunch of people, email record labels, maybe call up some people about being a manager type of deals. There's stuff that I could have did with that music and that music video to try to get something going. I could have paid World Star $1,000. I think it's like $1,000. You could pay World Star Hip Hop $1,000, and they put your video on their homepage. There's things that I could have did, but I didn't. And I'm not necessarily like bumming that I didn't do those things. It's really hard to make it in rap. So I spend that spring and summer thinking about it, and then I say, all right, I'm going to go back to school. So I transfer all my credits from music school over to UNLV, and I start attending UNLV. Now, I think it's relevant to say that I was really into the occult, and I was going down some sort of a spiritual rabbit hole. So the point is that I was reading some tarot cards when I was back in Kodiak, and I was reading some tarot cards from my roommates in Boston. And then when I moved to Vegas by myself, I kind of just started spiraling down the rabbit hole and joined like wizard forums, and all the way till I started like meeting some really interesting people online. It turned me on to like some groups, and I'm not going to get into too much detail about that either. Remember the moment that I was starting to leave the occult for Christianity. I discovered this podcast called Mysterium Fasces, and I thought, oh wow, these Christian theologian guys have read a lot of the stuff that I've read. So that was kind of like incepting the idea in my mind that, you know, I am misunderstood about Christianity. I wasn't really aware of these like Christian intellectuals. Okay, so UNLV starts, but this is kind of where it starts at UNLV. So I become a philosophy major, and when we're starting to go over the arguments for God, you know, like the basic stuff is like the cosmological argument, the teleological arguments. So I started hearing these arguments, that coupled with that I discovered like Mysterium Fasces and these intellectual Christians, that led to me discovering Jay Dyer. I think I had already discovered the Southern Israelite at that point, because he debated the guy from Mysterium Fasces, and it appeared to me that he won. But I basically got won over to his side of things, and I was in his chat. He saw I was in his chat, and he's like, oh, the perennial Stoic, because that's what my YouTube channel was called at the time. So I was in his chat, and he's like, oh, the perennial Stoic, and we started talking, and he got me into his freaking Discord, and all of that happened pretty quick, and I got sucked into his platform pretty quick. But a lot of the things that he was saying made sense to me from an occult perspective. So I was becoming like a Christian, but, you know, Mysterium Fasces was Orthodox Christianity. Jay Dyer was Orthodox Christianity. It probably would have been a lot better for me as an early Christian discovering theology for the first time to keep following those kind of people, because Southern Israelite is basically like some sort of a Jehovah's Witness offshoot kind of a cult. And he actually says that he's not a Christian. So there you go. UNLV's done. I don't need to say anything else about UNLV other than I had a bad time. I was there 2017 fall, 2018 spring. I took a summer semester online, and then fall 2018. And after that was all said and done, I was just burnt out. I was not having a good time. I was getting fine grades. This is the origins of how I became the Reformed Stoic. I was surrounded by beautiful women at UNLV. I went on one date. It didn't go that great. Yada, yada. I was starting to like have these experiences that are very kind of relevant to what I call like the angry men movements online. So I was sexually frustrated and struggling with women at university. And I found that like the MGTOW was kind of the thing of the time, you know, guys talking about how they're going their own way. I was watching all these manosphere guys or MGTOW guys or whatever, and I was thinking, you know, man, it's impressive the way these guys can collect themselves and talk in front of the camera. I wish I could do that, because I feel like I have a lot to say. So I set up my GoPro in front of the fireplace. So I started just ranting in front of my fireplace. Just kind of stuff that, the way I felt about things. I wasn't really inspired by other black pillars. I was giving my own experience on things. My very first video was called, Bro, I Know a Guy Who's 5'7" and He Slays. And I was talking about how, like, well, I've met a lot of guys with that, and they have a very particular kind of personality, and they usually have a good-looking face, and they have good-looking hair, and there's all these other attributes they have, like they're extremely aggressive and sporty, probably like a wrestler, and so I just made a video talking about how, like, it's a cop-out when people say, oh, dude, you shouldn't have any problem with women because you're short, because I know a guy who's 5'7" and he slays. But I basically started making content like that, and I was in Southern Israelites Discord, and I was very rapidly moving up in his Discord, and I was kind of like one of the most popular followers he had. And he caught on that I had a channel, and I started kind of making content also related to his content. So we're trying to move forward now. Now we're going to kind of like get through my experience as the Reformed Stoic. So it starts out, I'm building my own little tiny audience, making black pill content that's coming from the heart, very naive, not aware of any of the things that I'm aware of now about how the internet works when you start voicing your opinions on the internet. So all of 2019, I was also doing a drum stream on Twitch called 7-Stroke Guru, where I would just live stream myself playing the drums. That was an interesting little arc that people on my channel won't ever really know about. So 2019 was me playing drums on Twitch and getting really deep into Southern Israelites Discord, going through all of his reading lists. So yada yada through that. Now we're in 2020. I had been watching Ice Poseidon ever since his first RV and slightly before. In fact, I discovered Ice Poseidon through Baked Alaska, who I'd already known about through 4chan. And the first live stream that I ever saw was Baked Alaska sitting in front of his computer with that chick Erin. That was when Sweet Erin came into the scene, I think. And Chaggit was there. And Mr. Medeker called him. Tim Medeker called him, was roasting him. It's like, you're an idiot, Baked. Because Baked called his like viewership toxic for like supporting far-right like neo-Nazi stuff. So I don't know if anybody remembers that stream. Mexican Andy was there. Sweet Erin was there. Chaggit was there. With Baked in his apartment, and he got roasted by Tim Medeker. That was the first live stream I had ever seen with all the donations and the text-to-speech, and I was like, whoa, what is this? What is this little world of people who pay for text-to-speech and all that? So after watching a little bit of that, then I discovered Ice Poseidon. Because Ice Poseidon was like, yo, Baked, are you like a neo-Nazi dude? Like, is this you waving around the tiki torches? And, you know, I was on 4chan already, and I was aware of some of these things, but I hadn't discovered the live streaming world. So then I discovered Ice Poseidon, and that's right before RV1. All kinds of people on RV1. That's with, like, Hampton Brandon, EBZ, when EBZ and Hampton Brandon got in the fight. So I watched that. I watched RV2. I was in the chat. I like to say that I was chat cancer. I would just like, man, the chat was like really quick, and I'd be in that chat like, haha, what an idiot. Oh, W this, W ice, like what a bunch of losers. And I was so spurgy in the chat, dude, and pretty much nobody really noticed me. So the first time I ever heard of IP2 was when Mexican Andy shouted it out one time. So, yeah, I was a fan of the Ice Poseidon, RVs, and all that. And then it's a little bit foggy and sloppy because there's so many different streamers. But once they started gravitating towards Vegas, because while I'm seeing all this stuff, I'm like, oh, I could be... You see how I was, like, influenced by the internet? I started out watching MGTOW. I could be one of these guys who talks on the internet. I wish I could talk like that and be organized. And then, you know, my first videos were pretty rough, but I started gaining confidence, realizing, yeah, I can do this. I can make content on the internet. And then I see the live streamers like, oh, I could do this. I could be like a funny guy who like gets donations, and I could get people to like watch me do stuff and donate to me for like being a guy, you know? I can do this. And I was already live streaming playing drums as 7-Stroke Guru. So I was starting to like get all excited, like I could be a live streamer. So when the compound with Blade and Attila and Geezer was in Vegas, I was like, this is it. I'm going to figure out, because I saw that there were stream snipers. I knew that terminology, people who show up on the streams. I was like, I can do this. And so I get in Attila's Discord, and I was like, hey, what's up, Attila? Great streams, man. I'm enjoying your stuff. Hey, so I'm a Vegas local, and would it be cool if I came and hung out with you guys? Like, oh yeah, man, no problem. Yeah, that sounds good. Come on over. He had no idea what he had in store. So then I come over the next day. I bring some beers and some booze and hang out with Geezer, Blade, and Attila. That stream from Attila's VOD, I believe, is still floating out there somewhere. I feel like Blade's VOD of that night is gone. But I'm not going to go over that, because now we're trying to kind of hurry up now. We're 30 minutes deep. So that happened, and I got drunk. I think I got drunk for like the first time in a while. I wasn't really drinking, is the thing, guys. I hadn't really been drinking. So I'm all excited to be around these streamers that I watch, and I'm getting drunk. And I'm basically making an ass of myself in front of like 10,000 people. And apparently I like annoyed the shit out of a lot of people. But I'm live in front of like 10,000 people talking about the Jesuits and flat earth and, you know, government control and how like the Jesuits rule the world and how a lot of science is a sham. And I was aware of the IP2 message board. So I see all these people talking shit about me, and I was pretty upset because I was new to that. And it brought some people over to my live stream, so I was kind of preoccupied with that. So things weren't really that big of a deal at this point. Man, it's crazy to think back to that, because they were making this meme. They found some guy who doesn't even really look like me, but somebody started this meme where like, oh my gosh, I found Reformed Stoic, and like he rubs shit all over himself. He found some guy who I don't even really think looks like me, who rubs shit on himself. And he said it was me. And it's funny to think back to that, because I was upset about that. I was like, oh, that's not me, guys. Basically, I sucked at dealing with, like, getting made fun of by the internet. So that's where I was at. I was like, it's not me. I'm not that guy, dude. I'd never rub shit on myself. Little did I know how crazy things would get. Yada, 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 yada. End of 2020, when I stream sniped RV6. Baked Alaska, that was the night that Dope District dragged Aldi 1K out of the RV. When they came through Vegas, I was like, okay, RV6 is in Vegas. Because while RV6 was happening, I was like a Z tier list celebrity on IP2. People in my chat were like, dude, are you going to stream snipe the RV if it ever comes to Vegas? Yep, I will. Because the trip basically ended in Vegas. So the whole time the RV trip is going, I'm watching, I'm screen sharing, and that was like the last RV trip that I think like was like really popular. Nobody really gives a shit about the RV trips anymore, just being honest. They don't even really have them anymore. Most of the original cast is gone. It's crazy how IP2 like rapidly started changing and dying as I started entering the script. So this is my big moment, because I had successfully kind of grifted an IP2 audience in 2020 from that first time I stream sniped. So I show up, somebody figures out where that RV is located, and I take an Uber there, and this is my big moment. And I'm standing like on the curb, and there's police there because of the incident that happened, and they're telling me to fuck off. And at some point, the police were like, hey, we already asked you to leave. If we have to ask you again, like, you're going to be leaving in cuffs. I'm starting to get threats. But, you know, people in my chat, I got this huge IP2 audience on my chat, on my phone, and they're roasting me like, you're a pussy. Dude, I can't believe how much of a pussy you are. You're just standing there. Stop being an idiot. And then those guys told me to go, like, buy them cigarettes. They gave me some money for me to go buy them cigarettes. It's like, yeah, probably by the time you come back, the cops will be gone, and you can come hang out with us. So I go buy cigarettes from the corner store. I show back up on the RV, and I'm not going to go over that. But basically, I was talking some shit about, like, Baked Alaska and his friend Puma. I was like, oh, I train kickboxing, and I can fuck these guys up. So then they get back, and they're flashing flashlights in my face. And Baked Alaska's buddy, Steel Puma, is like trying to bully me verbally, and I'm throwing it right back in his face. And nothing really happened. At some point, like, I grabbed his wrists, and there's all these memes about wrist controls. Like, he had his camera, and I grabbed his hands, and probably what I would have did from there is shoot the double leg. But see, my perspective was that if I would have did anything, I was going to get jumped by all these guys on the RV. It was kind of all of them versus me. There was kind of like a hostile energy. The only guy that I was really worried about was Shooter. You know, Shooter's like 250 pounds or something. He looks like a football player. And me and him had got into it on the IRL Content Gods Discord. As soon as I get on that RV, he's like, "Hey, what's up, Reform Stoic? Man, why do you talk all that shit, dude?" I was like, "I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I don't want that smoke." Me and Shooter kind of had like a good little heart-to-heart outside of the RV. And he's like, "Don't worry about it, man. Everybody makes an ass of themselves on this network." And he's kind of like, you know, I feel like we had a good little discussion. So all that happened, and then, you know, at some point, Puma rolls up to me on his wheelie board and, like, pepper sprays me. What happened was he, like, tweaked the pepper spray nozzle. A little bit landed on my forehead. And so what IP2 says is, "Oh, dude, Puma freaking maced you, dude. You got owned. He maced you and you did nothing." Basically what happened was the little wrestly shit-talky bullshit that was going on in the RV, I feel like I got the upper hand. It's silly to brag about because nothing happened, but, you know, when I was grabbing his wrists, I was kind of in control. When he was trying to talk shit to me, I was like, "Dude, you're a Zoomer, and I could kick your ass." And I kind of got the better of it. So I feel like, you know, he tried to pepper spray me. I feel like his chat was egging him on. I feel like I made him look bad. People don't like that narrative. This is where the story gets interesting. 36 minutes deep. A lot of people didn't like that narrative. Like, the overwhelming narrative that seems to be backed up by, I don't know, bot accounts or people who are paid to push some kind of a narrative, or like, he maced you, he owned you, you're a pussy, you're an idiot, ha ha ha, Puma humiliated you, you manlet, you got maced. It's like, whoa, like, what is IP2? Like, who are all these people online behind anonymous accounts? So that's when things got weird. I don't know how much time I want to spend on this part of the story. This is the juiciest part. People on my stream know this part very well. So I'd already dealt with some sort of a kind of like smear campaign thing when they were making the memes about me, trying to say I smeared shit on myself. Alexandra Mayers made a video trying to say that like I was a racist, and I'm informing black women in Vegas of the racist, misogynist, reform stoic. I dealt with these like minor smear campaigns. But I started noticing things happening in my neighborhood after I had stream sniped the Baked Alaska and Steel Puma RV. And I started getting people pranking services to my door in Vegas. I had animal control at my door saying like, "Hello, sir, somebody said that you torture your cats." And I was like, "Who said that?" "Oh, well, they wanted to remain anonymous." And so these people are like frisking me for my cat papers. Like, "Well, can you prove that you have your cats vaccinated?" And these people are starting to like attack me in all these various ways. Like, people are showing up at my door. I printed out something on my door that said, "Whoever you are, wherever you're here, I'm getting like pranked by this online website that are sending people to my door. So whatever you think you're here for, it's not happening. Go away." And I heard all these people come to my door leaving pissed off. They put up ads on Craigslist. This is called like, so I got doxed. Eventually people after that RV figured out my name. And after they figured out my name, they figured out where I lived. And then they told everybody where I lived. And then because I was sloppy at handling that, they tried to say, "Oh, you did it to yourself. We figured it out because of you." They lied. They said that it was because of my book, but I don't think that's how they figured out. I think they freaking pulled my face from the database, bro. I think like somebody who has access to like a DMV facial database pulled my fucking face recognition and connected it to my name. But they come up with lies for like how I got doxxed. So I got doxxed, then you get swatted, then they start pranking services and animal control to your door. So that's what was happening to me around the time that those clips from Pimpin' Pat, the clips on Pimpin' Pat's channel were from a time when I had recently been doxxed and I was getting swatted. So that Pimpin' Pat guy used to be in my chat. He was like a regular in my chat, and one day I'm like, I don't know, everybody, what do you think about this Pimpin' Pat guy? Because he had already made some of these videos about me that weren't directly like, you know, they were goofy, they were moments from my stream, and it kind of just seemed like he was a fan, right? But I was like, I don't really like the way this guy's depicting me. And so one day on stream, I'm like, I don't know, what do you think about this Pimpin' Pat guy, guys? And they're like, I don't know, I think he's a fan. I was like, yeah, well, I think I don't really like him, and I think I'm going to block him. That's when he posts the video, Reform Stoic threatens to sell out the country to Russia. So he had been, well, this is what's called A-logging, where he's gathering all these rants that I've had on my stream because I was flustered, okay? I was flustered. I was dealing with things. I was going through a stressful time. I've tried to explain this stuff in other videos, and this is my origin video, but now we're getting up to these moments, and maybe this can give you more of like an insight on how I got to this point where I'm ranting on my couch, and you know, I'm not going to fully go over that either, but the Uber Eats thing was that, this is so stupid, man, because I wasn't streaming. I ordered something on Uber Eats, and the guy's on the way, he's like, or he's getting ready to head over. He's like, oh, they didn't have the thing that you ordered, but let me know what you want instead. I was like, oh, you know, I don't want anything. Just cancel the order. Okay, we'll just cancel the order on the app. And I was like, and I tried, and I couldn't figure out how to cancel the order on the app. So I was like, hey, I can't figure out how to cancel the order on the app, so just cancel the order. And then he starts ignoring me, and he starts heading to my house. So I go on this big rant. Don't fucking come to my house, dude. Like, I told you not to come to my house. I don't give a shit. See, here's it all over again. It's a frustrating situation. Like, I don't give a shit about the app. I told you not to come to my house. When somebody says, hey, don't come to my house, don't come to my house. So I'm getting all upset because he's ignoring me and he's heading to my house. And this isn't a time when I was being harassed. There's so much shit that was happening. Dude, some guy from Uber Eats, like, stole my order and sent me a picture of a fucking chicken sacrifice ritual. I shit you not, dude. And anytime I say this stuff, people are like, oh, prove it. You have no fucking idea how much shit I have been through since this, whatever this shit was, started at the end of 2020. Because what happened, guys, is I identified a gold Range Rover in my neighborhood that was being weird. One day when it pulled out, this is the first time I ever noticed it, it did a little honk. Bang! It gave me a little honk and then zoomed off when I was in my driveway. And I thought, that's kind of strange. And there's a lot of strange stuff happening in the neighborhood and in my life. I think that vehicle's weird. So then my parents were visiting for a little bit, and I saw that gold Range Rover parked over by the side, like, basically in view, like, watching us. Like, that guy was just parked right by my driveway watching us. So I tell my mom, hey, there's a weird gold Range Rover. And she's like, yeah, I saw it. Can you get a picture of the license plate for me? Yes. And she got a picture of the license plate. So I signed up for these identification websites where you can type in license plates. And I tied it to Nathaniel Ferries, who works for a company called Intrepid Corp. That is how I discovered Intrepid Corp. Okay, there's all these people. Oh, it's lies. lies, 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 lies. Mass spreader of misinformation, because there's all these weird people in my chat who always accuse me of being schizophrenic and making things up and lying. Well, that's how I discovered Intrepid Corp, by pulling these license plates. And I thought, Intrepid Corp. And I start looking into it. It's like, whoa, everybody who works here is former Abraxas Corp. And everybody who worked at Abraxas Corp is former CIA. Okay? So this is the first time I'm discovering this kind of stuff. And then shortly after that, the mailman, the mail truck, was parked in that same place where he was parked. And I was looking for weird stuff at this point. So I walk up to the mail truck, and as soon as I start approaching it, turns on, and it goes over and parks by a nearby house and starts delivering the mail to that house. But I wasn't done yet. I went and talked to that guy. I was like, hey there, mail driver. Can I ask you, like, why you were parked over there, like, staring at my place? He's like, oh, I was eating my lunch. I had a tuna sandwich and just having a quick lunch break. I was like, oh, all right, because there's been a lot of strange activity going on in this neighborhood. I just figured I'd ask you. So I pull up my phone, snap, and that's the picture I have of one Lance Cottrell, chief scientist of Intrepid Corp, chief scientist of Abraxas Corp, former CIA, the inventor of the anonymizer, contracted with the Patriot Act, who literally, because I watched his interview with the Rotary Club, he's also a member of the Rotary Club, he talks about how basically he invented the internet anonymization that the CIA uses. Yeah. So, and then of course people are like, oh, that's not him, you're mass spreader of misinformation. But yeah, basically the idea is that that's a bunch of like bots and AI and people who are paid to lie, who are basically trying to cover up the fact that this Intrepid Corp had set up camp in my neighborhood and was running some sort of a weird covert intelligence operation on me in my neighborhood. And it came out that that gold Range Rover, who I believe was being either driven by Lester Pimentel or Nathaniel Ferries, it kind of looked like this guy Lester Pimentel, who was also an Intrepid worker. He said, brother, I'm staying over at Frank Underhill's place. Frank Underhill owns Underhill Securities. So Intrepid Corp was living with Underhill Securities in my neighborhood, private security. And then Intrepid Corp is a cybernetics agency. So something very strange was happening in my neighborhood, and I identified a company filled to the brim with former CIA and Department of Justice. Okay? And all these weird anonymous people in my chat to the death will tell you, schizo, false information, schizophrenic, hallucination, he's absolutely nuts. But that's how I heard of Intrepid Corp, is by pulling the license plate. And then I took a picture of this mailman. I'm like, this guy looks really familiar. And I had watched the Intrepid Corp videos. I was like, that's him. That's the guy for the Intrepid Corp videos. So I identified two people from Intrepid Corp in my neighborhood. One from a license plate, and then one from recognizing the guy from the videos. So I don't know, man. Like, if you're unbiased, like, what do you think? Do you think it's all in my head, or... Because those pictures are still out there. Like, if you go to my Reform Stoic backup too, I still got pictures of this guy. I've had people attack my YouTube channel on so many different levels, trying to remove these videos and this evidence. So I got into it with the police over there. At one time, I called the police over to my place, and I get a call. Yeah, come outside. We're here. It's like, can you guys come to my door? No, they're not going to come to your door. And I'm talking to this lady with the police in Vegas, and she says, they're not going to come to your door. It's like, well, I'm not going to go outside. Like, what is this? Like, just come to my door. And she's like, you don't make up the rules. We're in charge. You have to listen to what I say. So there's clips of me on the internet, like, cussing out the Las Vegas PD. That's what that was. And by the way, legally, no, I do not have to leave my house to go meet the cops outside. So she was basically like trying to coerce me into doing something that I did not have to do legally. And she was telling me that I had to. So she was lying to me, is what was going on. And honestly, you guys, I feel like the Las Vegas police were trying to set me up. So I think Las Vegas police were working in tandem with Intrepid Corp and Underhill Securities. So private security, cybernetics, and Las Vegas police. And wow, like what's going on since I messed with Baked Alaska, who used to work for Warner Brothers, who used to work for BuzzFeed, who goes to all these movements. You know, he was waving the tiki torches. You will not replace us. He was at Charlottesville. He was getting pepper sprayed by Antifa. He's at like every single far right movement. He was at the Capitol building. And he was live streaming saying, okay, guys, let's go into the Capitol. And then his footage of the Capitol got all these people locked up for 15 years. And, you know, he's in the Capitol building live streaming. Well, he only got like 6 months in some sort of a weird federal institution where he's like playing tennis and he's got like an ankle bracelet. So the idea is that, you know, Baked Alaska is probably some sort of an undercover federal agent, which all kinds of people on the internet think. And I basically was like, I don't know, pissed him off. So he sent all these weird glowy CIA front and corrupt police against me. And I had a feeling that the police were trying to coax me outside to set me up somehow to either attack me or to arrest me. That's what I believe was going on when the phone lady was trying to get me to go outside. So, yada, 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 I leave Vegas and go to Kodiak, Alaska. I'm not, and I feel like that's it. That's the origin story, okay? The Kodiak, Alaska stuff was like people in my hometown from my past who already had issues with me for various reasons. Basically just spats on Facebook where I said, yeah, well, you're a fucking stupid redneck and I shred the drums and I'm smart as shit and you're dumb and fuck you. I had some spats on Facebook that left people with a bitter taste in their mouth. So they start catching on to what's going on with this IP2 stuff. And my perspective is that they didn't want to hear me out. They didn't want to understand what's going on. And there's a smear campaign going on. And there's people trying to weaponize people in my hometown against me. Well, it wasn't very hard to do. So I'll just end with this, guys, because this video took way too long to get out. I'm probably going to try to edit out some of the early stuff to make this shorter. I believe that all of the worst clips of me on the internet were taken during very stressful times in my life. Very early into this harassment, coordinated harassment, doxing, and stalking campaign that's been going on. Now there's a buzzword on the internet called gangstalking. As somebody who's been dealing with this shit for years, I can tell you, you want to avoid that terminology. I would recommend, if you're trying to get police to help you, I would say I am dealing with vigilante harassment. There is a group of vigilantes who have taken it upon themselves to harass me. That is the magic word to get police to help you and to get people to take you seriously. Gangstalking is the magic word to get people to call you schizophrenic and possibly end up in a mental hospital. But I can tell you that some of these tactics that have been used against me, it started in Vegas, but it became very common in Kodiak. I dealt with this in Kodiak for 3 years where people would walk by, you know, they're walking by and then they look over at me at the last second. Stuff like that. Just really weird. Like, people walk by, or I go up the stairs to my truck. I see across the street there's two people in high-vis vests walking out of their car, and they both look over at me at the same time. Shit like that, dude. Just weird stuff to, like, make it obvious that they're there for you. But if you talk to somebody, especially if you're all worked up, like, you call the police, and this is what happens, dude, when this stuff first starts happening to you, this is probably how you're going to react. You call the police, oh, there's two guys with high-vis jackets and they looked at me and they walked by me. It's like, okay, so there's guys on a public sidewalk dressing in a way that's legal and they looked at you? Like, what's the problem, sir? See, these tactics are supposed to get you to like call the police over and over and over again, and then eventually the police get tired of you and they tell you they can't help you. It's supposed to make you look crazy, is what it is. And the magic words are COINTELPRO. I don't know if it's the FBI doing it, but these are tactics that have been used by the FBI. If you look up the COINTELPRO court documents, it will show you that what you need to know is that everything they did was legal. You know, it's like right on the bounds of everything that's legal, but it's harassment tactics. And part of it is a smear campaign where they call up your family and your work and your neighborhood and try to turn people against you. And then Zerzitsong. These are tactics used by the East German Stasi. And Zerzitsong means chemical decomposition. These are weird, no-touch tactics that are designed to harass someone and hurt somebody, basically. So all I'm going to say about Kodiak is I dealt with that stuff the whole entire time I was there for 3 years. And eventually the neighborhood watch was organized against me, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's all done through Facebook and run by these loony, corny boomers. I wasn't allowed to be a part of the group. Anybody in the group who spoke up for me was banned. It's a private group, so they just ban anybody who says anything in my favor. Completely ridiculous and infuriating. Now, here's a tactic that's really important to understand. Let's see. Deny accusations, reverse victim offender. DARVO tactics. Deny accusations, reverse victim offender. These tactics were used on me by one Chad Borton in Kodiak, Alaska. I had evidence of him following me to McDonald's so he could wear his weird high-vis vest and his weird ghost sweater that said DX on the back to try to like creep me out. So I took pictures of that, and eventually what he does is deny the accusations. No, I'm not stalking you. Reverse victim offender, you're stalking me. And he took me to court. And what's crazy is he sent me an email that said, like, you're an idiot, like, you're stupid, and oh yeah, you know, Gen X rocks, and millennial sucks, and I'm not a boomer, yeah, you suck. Don't contact me. And because I responded to that email and said, I'm not doing anything to you, dude, I didn't do anything to you, IP2 is messing with you. Because I responded to that, he was able to get a protective order out against me, and I had to go to a civil court case, which I won, to drop the restraining order. So that guy's a piece of shit, and he's a part of some weird gang where he was trying to set me up, and he was a part of the harassment. So now I'm in an undisclosed location, and that's all I got to say about that. And everything's good for the time being. IP2, the IP2 network is what is called a troll farm. Basically the same thing as Kiwi Farms. A troll farm. I would recommend that you search on YouTube Moby Troll Farm. Because Moby went through a situation where the CIA contacted him to use his Twitter account to further this narrative about a Trump-Russia collusion. And Moby spoke out against it. Moby exposed the CIA. So he started getting attacked by these troll farms. So exposing the CIA gets you attacked by troll farms. Well, Lance Cottrell of Intrepid Corp used to work for the CIA. I'll leave it at that. IP2 is a troll farm. Kiwi Farms is a troll farm. So this whole thing that I went through of people A-logging me, which is taking all your worst clips and using it for a smear campaign, sending it to your family and friends, trying to ruin you and your reputation. This whole process of A-logging and all these trolls in my chat, getting doxed, swatted, harassed. They sent police to my door for welfare checks. This seems to be connected to something. It's connected to something. And all I can say is that part of that something is private security, like Underhill Security, cybernetics, proxy CIA agencies like Intrepid Corp, which is Abraxas Corp. Abraxas Corp invented Trapwire, which is sold to fusion centers. It's like a security system that's sold to fusion centers. Now, if you go down the gangstalking rabbit hole, they say that fusion centers are behind it. Lance Cottrell is the chief scientist of Abraxas Corp, so he basically invented, like, this whole fucking thing. Like, I feel like that's a very big key to understanding what gangstalking is. He uses COINTEL, Zerzit-Zong tactics to try to discredit you. If this shit ever happens to you guys, my advice is to document it, but basically effectively ignore it. Because it's a lose-lose, bro. Like, when you try to expose this to police and whatever, and I'm trying to stay neutral on the police, but in Kodiak, I got the idea that the Alaska State Troopers... See, an Alaska State Trooper called me up after... See, the court ordered me to send a copy of the restraining order to Chad Borton, and then Chad Borton says, oh, he's violating the restraining order because he sent me this copy of the restraining order. So I get a call from an Alaska State Trooper, Trooper Beaver, and he says, you have sent this to Chad Borton, and this is violating, and I had no idea what he's talking about, because I was working with a company who was doing this paperwork for me. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're going to get punished for what you did. And then I get the company I'm working with to sort it all out, and then I have a talk with the Alaska State Troopers, and he's like, oh, well, yeah, we didn't know. I was like, yeah, well, I'm probably going to be filing a lawsuit, and you should probably have a talk with your Officer Beaver, who was basically trying to entrap me. He's like, I don't know how that's entrapment. And so I get the idea that the Alaska State Troopers were involved, but not the Kodiak Police Department. I actually had a very good experience with the Kodiak Police Department, but now I'm kind of just rambling, guys. IP2 network, Baked Alaska. Baked Alaska is some sort of a undercover federal agent who tries to get people to go to these far-right movements. IP2 network is a honeypot. And all of the streamers on the IP2 network are either a part of the honeypot or they are being harassed and defamed by the honeypot, because they can add any streamer that they want to ruin, they can add to it, and then it activates the troll farm against them, and they get A-logged and harassed and doxed by the troll farm. So IP2, Kiwi farms are troll farms. IP2 is also a honeypot. I think it's run by, like, something. Is it the FBI? Is it some sort of a cult? Is it the shadow government? I mean, basically, effectively, Abraxas Corp, Intrepid Corp. It looks like these kind of proxy agencies that were popular during, like, Watergate. They talked about these companies, like, what was it, like the plumbers or something? These companies that are filled to the brim with former CIA. But, oh, it's not the CIA. The CIA doesn't operate on American soil. But they got these proxy agencies filled to the brim with former CIA, using all their tactics and intelligence to, like, attack people on American soil. It's like a shadow government. Abraxas Corp is like the shadow government, and then they became Intrepid Corp, and then apparently Intrepid Corp isn't a thing anymore, but they keep just trying to hide this agency. They keep creating these new agencies filled to the brim with spooks to operate on American soil and probably work with fusion centers and private security. So they did this stuff to me, and I'm a pretty smart guy, and anybody out there trying to figure out, like, what gang stalking is, it has something to do with either the shadow government or the government or something, man. We're going to be here for a really long time if I try to hash all that out. But I'll tell you what, guys. The entire rant that I had leading up to going to UNLV, I'm probably going to cut that out because it took way too long. I'm at an hour and 5 minutes. That's the entire story of how I became the Reformed Stoic. So anybody who is hearing this like from my hometown, or people who like have seen clips of me, you've seen like my, you know, when I said racist and misogynist things, I'm sorry. I've been doing better. I was going through some really hard times when that happened, and you're being manipulated by people taking all of my worst moments, cramming them together, shoving them in your face in places like the Kodiak Neighborhood Watch group, where anybody who tries to explain what's going on is kicked out, because the Neighborhood Watch, from what I can tell, is corrupt as all shit. But I'm fine. I'm in a better place now for the moment being. I'm not being harassed. And I'd ask that you try to understand what I've been going through, because I basically just wanted to be a live streamer. It's like, I want to be friends with Ice Poseidon. And I realized that the IP2 network is some sort of a possibly federally run honeypot operation where they try to get people to go to right-wing movements. That's why all the IP2 streamers always go to all these right-wing rallies. They're trying to get people to go to these right-wing protests. And if you ever do go and the law enforcement gets involved, they will use their live streaming footage to get you indicted. Baked Alaska's live stream footage was directly responsible for thousands of people spending 15 years in prison. And he got a slap on the wrist. So I think that IP2 is some sort of a federally run, law enforcement run honeypot operation designed to get people to go to right-wing rallies, join right-wing movements, and become far right-wing extremists so they can put you on watch lists or whatever. That's what I believe that IP2 is. I don't know if that's always what it was. I think it has something to do with Baked Alaska. And the fact that all of the old mods quit, all of the old streamers quit, and basically there's a bunch of like no-name nobodies, and the IP2 network has completely shifted gears. Basically nobody's even really watching it anymore, and they really, 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 really don't like me and have it out for me and are obsessed with me. If you go to IP2, there's people who post about me every single day over there and like try to work people up. Like, oh, we're just trying to, they post these big long books like, we're just trying to make people aware of this terrorist so we can protect families and protect children. You're doing that over on IP2, where people talk about like how Vegan Patriot pees on people. Like, what are you talking about, dude? So yeah, I would stay away from that website. By all means, I would definitely stay away from Baked Alaska. I would stay away from all these far right-wing movements, guys, because the idea is that they're all honeypots. They want you to be extreme. They want you to say extreme things so they can put you on a watch list and monitor you and possibly harass you with this kind of stuff that I've been harassed with. But I think that it got to the level it did for me because I was exposing these honeypots. And I think that maybe some of these like religious groups, like Southern Israelites group, that might have been a honeypot as well. Sometimes I think he had something to do with it as well. But I don't really know. I'm starting to lose my voice. I've been worked up talking about this. I don't know. I'm thinking it has more to do with like Baked Alaska and IP2, because I'm still trying to figure out what I believe about the world and the kind of stuff that I was saying that I learned from him. I still think some of it is true about like Jesuits and Knights of Columbus being corrupt in the Catholic Church. So that's my story. That's how I became the Reformed Stoic. I do want to continue doing this channel. I do want to continue doing live streams occasionally. I do want to occasionally continue to make videos, because I feel like if I delete my channel after all this, then it's all for nothing. I do want to have an influence. I do want to make content. I do want to be out there. I want people to know who I am and what I'm about. Come to my live stream anytime and ask me about anything. Like, try to make it interesting, you know? Like, who do you think rules the world? What do you believe religiously? How do you see history? What are your opinions on these wars? Like, I think I'm a smart guy. I have all kinds of things to say. Please, come talk to me. Add me on Instagram. Get in my DMs. I'm not very trusting of people. I've been through all kinds of crazy stuff, but I'm fine. Life is good. Me and my cats are living good. I'm going to the gym. I play the drums. I rap. Check out some of my rap music on my rap playlist. Check out my drumming and my drum covers playlist. And come hang out in my chat. Support my content. Sub, like, comment. I got PayPal. Send me some donos or TTS. I'm still a live streamer. I'm still doing it. And that's my story, guys. I hope you enjoyed. God bless.